Hello students. Let's, as always, save the file under a new name. This time, let's call it arrays. Create a new logical branch with the same name. One by one, select all three objects in our scene and disable the Boolean branch from the previous lesson. In the scene properties, add a new branch named arrays. So, let's get started. Today Aunt Svetlana will try to explain the concept of an array briefly and clearly. We have already studied numbers and strings. However, if we limit ourselves to numbers and strings, the programmer's life will become unbearably dull. Arrays add color to the gray reality of a programmer and allow data to be created and grouped in more interesting ways. An array is not just a box where we can put only one value. An array is a huge wardrobe where we can fit any number of boxes with any data. For example, let's say we want to create a list of 5 places we will visit in the near future. Hong Kong, Tokyo, Bangkok, Hanoi, Singapore. We can create a separate variable for each city. To do this, you will need to connect 5 setters to the initialization block. Come up with 5 names for variables and save the names of the places in them. And now, imagine that there are not just 5 places to visit, but 10500. You'll have to create a bunch of individual variables, come up with names for them, and then somehow navigate through this structure. It won't be convenient to use this list. Working with such a structure will be simply impossible. It's like a shopping list where each item is listed on a separate sheet of paper. One sheet says eggs, another says bread, the next one says oranges. And so on. Most reasonable people would prefer to see the entire list on one sheet of paper. This is where arrays come in handy. It's much more convenient to manage with just one variable and place the list of all places to visit in it. To create an array, you just need to select the appropriate block from the array group. Since we will be storing a list of cities in it, we will need a string array. That's it, the array is created. Right now, it's empty, so let's fill it up. Individual values stored in an array are called elements. In this example, all elements will be strings. Now we have a complete array. Let's figure out how to access its elements. To access the elements of the array, let's open our favorite and indispensable console. By pressing the spacebar, we'll print one of the array elements to the console. For this, we need the ArrayGet block. Connect the array channels. In the index field, specify the index. The index is the number of the element where the value is stored. Similar to characters in a string, the first element of the array corresponds to index 0, the second to 1, the third to 2, and so on. Therefore, by requesting index 0, we'll get Hong Kong in the console, which is the first element. And by requesting index 3, we'll get Hanoi, the fourth element. The ability to access individual elements of an array is very useful because we usually need not the entire list at once, but only the specific element. At any moment, we can set or modify the values of elements and even add new elements to the array. For example, to replace the content of the first array element, Hong Kong, with something else, like Kuala Lumpur, we can use the array set block. Let's trigger it with the S key. Connect our array to it. To the value channel, connect a string block where we write the new city, Kuala Lumpur. Leave the index field as 0. This means that the first element of the array will be overwritten with the new value. Also, return 0 as the output to the console. Start the game. Press the spacebar. We see Hong Kong in the console. Now press the S key. At first glance, nothing seems to have happened. But if you press the spacebar again, the console will display the string Kuala Lumpur. Now, our array no longer contains Hong Kong. In element with index 0, instead of Hong Kong, the value is Kuala Lumpur. Using the array set block, you can add any values to any array elements. This array with these 5 elements could have been created like this. We will sequentially connect 5 setters to the S key. To each of them, we will connect our array and specify 5 indices, from 0 to 4. Assign each element the names of cities from our list. Now let's clear the array. So, right after loading, we have an empty array with no elements. By pressing the S key, we will populate the array with values. Let's check if everything worked out. Only this time, let's print not just one element to the console, but the entire array. Remove the getter and connect the array itself to the output. Start the game. Press the spacebar. And we see 2 square brackets in the console, with no content. This is an empty array. Now press the S key. After that, press the spacebar again. Now in the console, we see square brackets with 5 elements inside. In fact, you can add an element to the array with any index. For example, let's add another setter. Specify an index of 25 and enter another value. Let it be Delhi. Now the console will display 26 elements of the array. But the elements from the 6th to the 25th will have a value of null. This means that the element exists, but it is empty. The 26th element with an index of 25 will contain the value Delhi. Now let's talk about different data types. It's not necessary for all array elements to be of the same type. To store different data types in one array, you can use the dynamic array block. It doesn't have input fields, but we can connect any data to it from blocks. Let's connect a string with the city name, Hong Kong. Next, connect an integer block with the population count, 13 million. The next block is Boolean, with a value of true. This will indicate that we have already visited this place. Copy this set. Change the city to Hanoi, the population to 6.5 million. And this time make the Boolean value negative. Press the spacebar to print the entire array to the console. We will see 6 elements of different types. What does this give us? A lot of things. For example, we can fully utilize mathematics and work with numeric data types from the array. If we add the values of elements with indices 1 and 4, the console will display the sum of the population of both cities, 19.5 million. Or, for example, if we need to sort the list and get only the cities we haven't visited yet. Here I'll jump ahead a bit and show you what loops, which we'll learn about a bit later, are capable of. In general, we take and iterate through the array using the array loop block. In the loop, we create a check. If the value of the element is false, then we print to the console the element to indices earlier. When the spacebar is pressed, each element of the array is checked for the value false. In our array, there is only one false value. It is stored in the element with index 5. And since we need to print the city name to the console, we just subtract 2 from the current index. We get the element with index 3, which contains the string value Hanoi. Cool, isn't it? Here's another feature with arrays. You can nest another array inside an array. And not just one, but several. Let's split the current array into two separate ones. In each of them, 3 values will be stored: city, population, and visited flag. Now let's add another empty array with 2 elements. Connect one of the ready arrays to each of them. Now we have an array that stores to other arrays. If we print it to the console, we'll see the following structure. The first level of brackets represents the main array. Inside, we can see 2 more pairs of brackets, which are the 2 elements of the array with indices 0 and 1. In each of these 2 elements, there is an array stored. It has its own 3 elements with indices 0, 1, and 2. Let's try to retrieve one of the elements from the nested array. If we use a getter, connect the main array to it, and specify index 0, then we will print the first nested array to the console. And since this is a full-fledged array, we can take and feed this array to another getter. If we specify index 0, we will get the first element of the first nested array in the console. That is, the string value Hong Kong. And if we want to display the population of Hanoi, then we will need the second element of the second array, that is, indexes 1 and 1. Or if we want to check whether we visited Hong Kong or not, then we need the third element of the first array. That is, indices 0 and 2. In the console, we get true. This is far from the limit of challenging the intricacies of the brain. In complex projects, there may be a need to create 3-dimensional arrays. This is when you take an array and stuff it with several arrays, which, in turn, also consist of arrays. And at this interesting point, you can take a break. Otherwise, fuses might blow. In the next lesson, we will learn to work with arrays using properties and methods. Don't get bored. Goodbye for now.